What happened? Hey, everyone, and welcome to Uncover My Heart, the heart healing journey. I am so glad that you took this opportunity to be with us on this evening. This is our third edition of Uncover Your Heart. And I'm Patrice Thomas. I am the creator of Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart. And we're becoming a better, a stronger you through the power of positive thinking. We're releasing the pain of the past and the fear of the future. Our overall objective is to have hands to pull you out of the darkness of your yesterday and to help you or to speak life into you as you move forward into your future. On tonight, we're going to be dealing with the condition of the broken heart. Our overall goal on tonight for all of you listeners is for you to receive healing for the wounds of your broken heart because we no longer want to bleed on other people. Our overall objective, again, is for us to move all of the debris of our past relationship and move into a more fruitful relationship, for us to close our ears to the voices of our past relationship and to open our eyes and our ears to what our future holds. So, as you begin to listen tonight to the speakers that are coming aboard, we want you to listen attentively so that when you leave this place on tonight, you'll be intentional in all of the things that you do. You'll realize that you don't have to walk around life with a broken heart anymore, but there is healing for your wounds on tonight. There is healing in this broadcast for you. So let's get started. I don't know about you, but I'm ready on tonight to receive my healing from my broken heart. And on tonight, I have two awesome women that they're going to be coming on and they're going to be talking about the condition of the broken heart. The first person I have is Latoya Gordon. Come on, let's welcome her aboard. Hey, sis. Hey, sis. So, the next person that I have is Iaya Isoki. Come on, let's welcome her on the board. She's coming all the way from California just to talk to us on tonight. And I have my co host on tonight, awesome, Donna Smith. We're going to be co hosting with two young ladies on tonight. Awesome. So we're going to co-host on tonight. On tonight, ladies, we're just going to go through and I gave them our overall goal, which is to receive healing for our wounds on tonight. We no longer want to walk through life bleeding on other people. The bleeding that we had from our past relationship, we want all of that debris to remove, and we want to walk into our future healed, healthy, happy. We don't no longer want all these pieces, these fragments that have been broken down through the years of our life to follow us. How many of us realize that there is healing on tonight on this line? And whatever we do on tonight, we want to leave the people with closed ears to our yesterday, to our past relationship, and have open eyes and open ears for our future to come in. So, you ladies, I'm going to give each one of you 20 minutes and we're going to just talk about, the different characteristics, or, how has the broken heart affected you? Rather, you give your testimony, however you want to do, the floor is open. Latanya, I'm sorry. Latoya, I said it right. We're going to start with you. And we're going to have you start out and you can come any way you want. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us about yourself in the journey with your broken heart. You on, sis?
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So
Hey,
I'm
Keith.
Latoya, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sister Pat, for having me on here. It's a pleasure to be here with you ladies, beautiful ladies, tonight. So I am originally from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. I came to the United States of America at the age of 5. No, sorry, 10. And so I've been in the States for over 30 years. And it's been a blessing to be here. And I go back and forth sometimes back home. I still have family living in Jamaica. So my background, basically, growing up, I grew up with basically a single mom of, she has 6 children, including myself, 4 girls and 2 boys. And I was raised in church all my life. Basically, I grew up in church. We were sent to church, let me clarify. We were sent to church, which, was a good thing. Sometimes you look back on your life, hindsight is 2020. I'm grateful to God that even though my mom wasn't a regular tender with us, I'm glad she sent us. And then when I transitioned to the United States with my dad, I had left my mom behind, and it was just myself and my brother who we share the same father. Our father brought us to the States, and my father continued on the same thing. He would send us to church. I remember as a little girl, giving my life to the Lord over and over again. My heart was just really tender to the gospel, and I remember going to the altar and giving my heart to the Lord. But when it became real to me was in my teen years, around the age of I want to say 13. During that age, okay, so I lived with my dad for a few years, and then I transitioned to live in where I am now, Pennsylvania. I transitioned to live with my aunt who lives in Pennsylvania. So growing up, and so I just kind of want to put a little disclaimer out there. My parents, they did the best they knew how with what they knew to do. So I have no animosity or anger or hatred in my heart towards my parents, but I do believe, this is my story, so I want to be honest and upfront with everything. Looking at the definition of the broken heart, based on what Sister Pat sent, it says the broken heart is a condition that arises when those who were supposed to love us did not. They either released harmful actions against us or they neglected to act in loving ways that you needed. Most people carry a broken heart because they were not given what they needed. So for me, when I, I started living with my aunt, and I remember going to a youth convention in Hershey, Pennsylvania with the Assemblies of God. And I remember hearing a message on breaking the chains, and that message really moved me, and I felt the Spirit of the Lord pulling me to the altar. So I went, and that's when I had a real encounter. What I say, a real, like, personal, life changing encounter with the Lord. And He began to speak to me into my heart, and I felt His presence in a very real and tangible way that let me know. And so, to kind of let you know how I got to that point, growing up, there's a lot of trauma, abuse. I've experienced pretty much every abuse: physical, sexual, emotional, all of it. Um, growing up in Jamaica, sometimes our parents, they weren't taught, they didn't know. So I remember my mom said, what's good for the geese is good for the gander. So whatever her mom did to her, she did to us. And so we were beaten, any little thing, every little thing, we were beaten. So I grew up fearing my mom and fearing adults, like really being afraid and intimidated because of the abuse and the physical abuse. Um, with my dad now, he was alcoholic and really bad, because when he would get drunk, he would come home, he would be staggering, throwing up, and say really, really mean things. So I got a lot of verbal abuse from my dad. So for me, the condition of a broken heart stems right there in the way I was raised, with two parents who just had a lot going on with them, and they just did what they knew to do at the time. And so for me, I was left with, at that time when I went to the altar, I remember asking the Lord, I said, Lord, I need you to teach me and to show me what love is, what real love is, what true love is, because I don't know what that is. And I have to say that that had to have been the Holy Spirit that led me to pray that, because I remember at the age of 13, losing my virginity because I thought, okay, this is what you do, had friends, just being influenced in that way. And I remember the broken heart I felt because this gentleman just did what he did and he didn't want to have nothing more to do with me. So that was just like another like rip, a tear in my heart. And so leading up to that point where I encountered the Lord in the arena, I remember I couldn't sleep at night. I was battling with suicidal thoughts. I remember the thoughts that was going through my head. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Nobody understands. This is how I felt inside, and I would carry it. And I just was having a hard time sleeping at night, no peace. And I remember when I got to the altar, and so some of the verbal abuse, I also want to kind of just share a little to give some more background. Some of the verbal abuse I received from my dad is you're ugly, you're good for nothing, you're going to end up with a bunch of kids by a bunch of different fathers. And, 2020 again, my dad, hindsight being 2020, my dad was angry with my mom because his dream was to come back to Jamaica, marry my mom, and take myself and my brother. But when he came back after 5 years of leaving us, because he left us there when I was 5 years old, and my mom had moved on. So when he came back, he was surprised. And in that time, the only way to get a message across, we didn't have no smartphones, none of that. It was a letter, and sometimes that letter would take 2, 3, however long to get to its destination. So my dad, did not know what was going on, and he came back. He saw she had moved on, and it really broke his heart. And I do look like my mom, so he basically took out everything he was feeling towards her on me. And also another part to that story is my dad never wanted to take me to America with him. He really just wanted to take my brother because that was his one and only son. And my mom told him, if you don't take her too, you can't take him. So that's how I ended up coming. So you put all of that together, you kind of get what that was like. And so I am writing a book, just so I can't tell all of that. I'm pretty much like 90% done with the book, but so all of this is describing the broken heart I had. And you would think that having that encounter at the age of 13 with the Lord, I was 13 going on 14, and I mean, a lot changed for sure. In a moment, I felt God, and I was just like, nobody can tell me that he's not real, because in Jamaica, I won't say all Jamaicans, but there, just the world period. I'm not just gonna isolate Jamaica, but there's a strong, like a religious type of a spirit. I think even just with Black people. And Sister Pat, if I'm going over my time, please stop me. I don't want to, because
No, sis, you're actually this is good. You're helping
okay,
people.
okay. So all right, so there's like a religious system. You go to church on Sundays, and then you kind of like live your life however way you want. So, for me, it was God is up there, out there somewhere, and but that day when I encountered him, no, he's real, and he started speaking to me, and he was talking to me about those questions that does anybody care? Does anybody understand? He was saying to me, I understand you. I want you. I love you. You're beautiful. Like he was saying those things to me, speaking to me, and it just like it broke me. And I was just crying, and in that moment I felt his peace. I felt his love. And another supernatural thing that happened in that moment too, my youth leader at the time, she was standing at the altar interceding, and she hugged me, and that was not a regular normal hug. I literally felt the love and the embrace of God hugging me. And so he was just talking to me, and the first thing he said to me is, you have to forgive your father. So here you go. Forgiveness is very important. Even in a moment of talking to, because he told me, he said, you have to forgive your dad. because at that point I think that was the strongest wound, is the one that my father, because many times I felt like I was just unwanted, unloved, uncared for, and it wasn't just a feeling, it showed. People would ask. I remember we would go out, me, him, my brother. My brother was well taken care of and everything, and people would ask, "Who is she?" Like I wasn't a part of the three of them, so many different things that come back to my mind from that time. And so the Lord spoke to me immediately. He said, "You have to forgive your father." And that has been a journey and a process in and of itself, releasing things. I journal a lot, I write a lot. But I want to say, having this broken heart, it really has. And I think it's just a broken relationship, particularly with my dad. I don't know why that one has been the most impactful, because my time with my father was shorter than my time with my mom. And it's interesting because as I've been writing this book, the thing that the Lord is highlighting to me in this season right now that I'm in is my father, my earthly father. And he's been doing some deep inner healing and working. And I think the reason why, it's gonna, so one of the things I've struggled with my whole entire life is, romantic relationships, wanting to have that person. And I think what it is because I didn't get that from my dad, that void, that emptiness and that loneliness that come, and that desire, like I want somebody that's going to love me for me and want me. And yes, you think, oh, she has such an amazing encounter with God, and encounters after that. So at least these are the things that I've said to myself, like, Latoya, how is it that God has shown you time and time again how much He loves you? Why is it that you're still struggling? And I feel like part of it is because God is taking me through a process, and this has to do with my purpose as well. And so, I got married to a man of God, and um, that's we're no longer married. That's like another story, but that didn't work out, and I can't really even go into uncovering all of that. But there's a lot in there as well. I just don't feel like I have enough time, but I am writing a book. But what I want to say is,
So, Latoya, we're going to stop you right there with the
okay,
relationship, because that
okay,
is one of the areas that we really want to get into tonight. How does having the broken heart really affect other relationship? So we're going to put a pause right there because you said something really good that we want to go
okay,
back and revisit.
no,
Donna is my co-host and she's on now. So we're going to give her like 5 minutes in case she want to say something, before, we move on to Iya. So but we're going to go back. I want both of you, Iya and Latoya, to get into your mind because we're going to talk about current relationships, how you when you were brought up and how they affect the current relationships that we're in. Donna, did you want to bring up something?
No, I was just so engrossed in
Yes.
your story. And so many of the things that you talked about, I can identify with. If I'm just not good with this technology, but if I could have kept hitting the little faces or whatever, emoji so I could say, yes, girl, yes. Like I understand exactly where you are when you talked about the different types of abuse that you went through, the different things that were going on in your mind, and just being so open and honest with it, because a lot of times it's difficult to find people who are open and honest that you can be realistic to, because a lot of times in the church, nobody wants to say, that was me. You don't want to recognize that you were in that kind of situation, because you almost feel like, well, if you in church and if you're saved, then didn't God tell you? Didn't He talk to you? He ain't say nothing. I'm like, I ain't hear it. I ain't had no burning bush. I tell Pat, I had none of that, right? So this, all my feelings were kept bottled up. So it's good to be able to know that someone else was going through that. And one key word that really stood out for me that you said is forgiveness. It, even just saying it, it just you have to think about and know that you gotta forgive those people who have caused this hurt and this pain, and the impact that it has, like Pat said, on future relationships in order to be able to grow. And my girl Wendy, I saw her all in the chat, gave me this book, Kind Speak to Higher Places, and I just keep hearing it because in that book, at one point, God, the shepherd, planted a seed in her heart. But then there was another point where she had her companions tie her to the altar when he pulled out all of that. And it wasn't until thinking about this that we're talking about today that that piece was he had to plant that to collect and to see what was in the heart so he could then pull all that brokenness out to replace it with something. So that's that came back up and I almost can see it as you were speaking. So it's just a beautiful word.
It is. And another comment that we had was, I think it was Wendy again. She says, an encounter with God will break every lie of the enemy.
Yeah.
And Latoya, as you was talking about it, it wasn't until you had that encounter until things begin to shift, but a lot of times we think that it shifts and everything goes away. There is a process. So, and we're going to talk about that's the two things that we really going to hit before we get out of here: relationships and the process. Come on, EIS, come on, Stats. We're going to move to you right quick, and then we're going to bring all of us back on and really get into the nuts and bolts. But Latoya, girl, you steered this whole comment section up here.
That's my new puppy, if y'all heard that. Okay, so my testimony, I'm a poet, I'm a writer. It's the best way for me to express myself. So I'm going to share something with you, and then we'll kind of go into where I was when I wrote it, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is called Good Morning, Miss Love, Good Night. So I miss cool breezes in the beginning of summer and having his unexpected arms embrace me from behind. I miss staring quietly together at the skyline, head resting on strong chest and muscles. I miss the tussle of love, delicate kisses to bare flesh. I miss the feeling of being as one, moving towards a light at the end of an expanded tunnel, visionary dreams where we themes rule the day and love themes rule the night. I miss claiming his closeness as mine, selfish in my claims, proud in my statement that this is my man, belonging to my space, face booked and sentence control, or delete what you think you heard on my word, on my bond. This man is my bond. Summer breeze of sundress, his stare making me aware that soon I will be undressed, naked, draped in satin desire. I miss that bottom-bellied fire, fingers through my hair. I miss his awareness, his come here nowness, knowing. I miss knowing. I miss knowing this love growing is justified because we both applied it properly and our love property isn't for rent or for sale. And the least of these things between us is the most we have to offer tentatively. I miss sitting in the darkened porch in love-scorched madness. I miss missing a man without sadness. I miss hosting so he can boast me to his friends. I miss the seamless blend of the beginning leading to a happy end. And I miss this feeling of team.
Mm-hmm.
I miss having you in my dream. I miss building a happy theme. I miss the right kiss.
Mm-hmm.
I miss conversations by the dresser, kisses in the kitchen, cuddling on command. I miss the touch of his hands. I miss future plans. I miss being his missus, stitching together the strands of our separate lives, entwining the lining and lightning and thunderous thrusts of lust. I miss being claimed. I miss the mark of a caveman, the X on my forehead that reads his hands off. I miss this. I miss the look on his face as he speaks glitter and rose petals clutching my name falling from his lips because he will never admit out loud around his friends what he and I comprehend in silence, that my very existence causes his heart excruciating violence as it's torn apart at the thought of me leaving.
Mm.
I miss cleaving unto him like Bible verses during Sunday service, letting no man put asunder what we grew in wonder and abandonment. I miss being meant.
Mm.
I miss the promise of nuptials. I
Mm.
miss being a couple. I miss love.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow, sis, that was awesome.
thank you. In this poem, I get myself together. I haven't done that in a long time. Um, I'm coming from a place of grieving and healing. So over 30 years ago, I met my childhood sweetheart. We have been through trials and tribulations and breakup and makeups, then murder, then suicide.
Jesus.
A little over 11 years ago, he was murdered about 2 weeks before we were supposed to get married. So, no happily ever after, or as we used to say, no Napoli ever after. See, his brother in law kicked in the door to his estranged wife's Newtown home, shot my fiance to get to his wife, and then he murdered himself. So, I lost a fiance, a sister in law, and a best friend all in one day, all in one moment, all in one heated moment of anger that couldn't be controlled. So prior to this, through our trials and our tribulations and everything that we had gone through, I had been bent heart, bruised heart, hurt heart, even a broken heart. But to lose somebody on the phone, I love you, I love you, a violent death, it doesn't break your heart, it implodes. And if you're not careful, if you're not careful, that broken heart, that space will become cold,
Yes.
dark, bitter,
Mm-hmm.
angry,
Mm-hmm.
and completely ineffective to help you sustain life.
That's true.
That was 11 years ago. It was 11 years ago. And what I had to learn on this journey was how to heal, how to uh, accept what is, and how to pick up the pieces and
Mm-hmm.
keep moving forward every day. For me, who prior to this event, silly person, I'm still a little silly person, but silly and happy and in all of everything, and the poet that's writing Black men poems, after that happened, the Black men poems went away because I started looking at all of our brothers as potential murderers. Anybody that had a um, temper, I would think, the potential to kill, right? So, where I went from loving my brothers, fighting for them, speaking up for them, I became afraid of their temper, of the possibility, of the what if. Um, and it was a long, long journey to get to where I am today, where there's still struggles. You have to go through therapy. In the Black community, we don't do therapy. We
Absolutely.
say go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I say God has put therapists on this planet, so go to both, right?
Mhm.
Go to both. I took my worries and my troubles to the altar, and I took my pain to a therapist to work through it so that I could be whole again one day, right? Um, so that's my story. And I'm hoping that, when we talk about broken hearts, we talk about broken relationships, um, grief
Mm-hmm.
shuts you down. Grief
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
can put you in that corner where you
Yes.
just sit and never go back out and experience life and never get in another relationship and start looking at people funny and becoming paranoid. I mean, it can really destroy you if you don't have a good foundation for healing. Um, that's my story, and I'm willing to share it, and I'm willing to answer any kind of questions.
Girl, awesome. You left me speechless. I've heard you do poetry before, but I think this is one of my most favorite times that I've heard you do it. Awesome.
Thank you.
And the awesome part of it is that it came from your heart.
Mhm.
You know, you could hear everything that you were speaking. But in the midst of it, I hear your healing. I hear your pain, but I also see your healing.
That's the part, that I can still smile. I hadn't read that in a while. So, of course, you go back in time a little bit while you're reading the words and you remember where you were. So it brings up emotions. And I think, for me, I always say that the poetry is a gift from God. And if you have a gift from God, you better use it. Right.
Right.
So even if I have to kind of weep through it, I'm going to get through it because I know healing is on the other side. And even though that was written for me, somebody's going to take those words and they maybe not haven't gone through that particular situation, but there's a situation in there that they can understand. You know what? I miss being loved. I miss being this thing. So how do we get there? How do I get back there? We don't leave it at that. We don't leave it at the feet of that poem, right? We have
Right.
to figure out, how do I get there now? And I've got things that, I write. I've got my website or my blog that I write, that I use to do the healing process. So it doesn't just stop there. We keep going, right? And my faith was super huge. Understanding, you know, God has a plan. I might not be privy to it right now. That was me 10 years ago. I don't know what your plan is, but I don't know why this was it. But over the years, I understood that my growth and my healing and what God actually had intended for me, um, sometimes you have to take the hits to get to the next level.
Right.
Wow. Now that's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do. And the hits is pain.
Mm.
So they always say there is pain before pleasure, in everything that we go through in life. And there is, because pain also brings about growth. I think I read a comment in the, I think it was Wendy again, and she said therapy actually deepens our faith.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's real because it does. One other thing you said that I thought was so awesome. A lot of times, and it's not only in the church, but it's in the Black community,
Mhm.
we don't go to therapists
Mhm.
because we think that's below us. We think, why do I have to sit in the seat with a shrink to tell me what I feel or what I think? I
Mhm.
got it all control. I'm strong. I can do this. But there's something you said. You took your words and your trouble to the altar, but you took your pain to the therapist.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because in the midst of that, the therapist can give you tools you need to
That's
be
right.
able to take you through your pain,
That's right.
the pathway that it goes.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
I thought that that was so deep. And I thought that if we all could get that same mindset, we wouldn't have as many people walking around with mental problems in this time that we live in.
Yeah.
Some of our mental problems is because of the deep pains and the hurts that we have inside of that. Rather, it has been death. Rather, it has been abuse. Rather, it has been any of those things. We carry those things day after day.
Yep.
And we never seek the healing process because our mindset is to say, I'm okay,
Yes. I got
but we're
this.
not okay.
Yeah.
We don't have this. So I thought that that was so cool. And when you even talked about the grieving, you talked about it from having someone that you love in a spouse. But I was sitting here and I was listening to you. Grief will push you in a corner.
Mhm.
It will halt you. It will
Yes.
stop you in everything that you do because you think that you can't go on because your mindset is still there with the grief.
Mhm.
Over the Thanksgiving holidays, someone had called me and they were asking me how I was doing and how I was doing. And this is someone who has lost in this time frame. Actually, they have lost their mother also this year, a couple of months after my mom. And one thing she said to me that resonated with me, she said, "You can remember the person that died, but you have to appreciate the people that are living in the lives that are with you."
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
she said, "There's nothing wrong with going with people and enjoying life.
Mhm.
But as you enjoy life, you can remember the loss that you have. And
That's
you're
right.
appreciating two separate things at the same time." And
Yeah.
that spoke volumes to me because it allowed me to say, you don't have to sit in darkness. You don't have to sit in a corner. You can still go out and appreciate your loved ones and not feel as though that you're negating the fact that someone has died.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was so, it was just so awesome. You ladies have just been hanging and it's been punching out here today with some strong stuff that's been really connecting to the heart. So, ladies, we're going to talk about for a few minutes. Donna, did you have something you wanted to say before we get into the relationship and everything about it?
I one thing that she said that was really powerful to me too is um how it shapes every other relationship. You look at
Yes.
every other man, and I was just in a conversation last evening about how you things happen to you and you don't even realize that you're bringing all that baggage from every other situation in your life
Yes.
into
Yeah.
new ones. And every time you step into something, the minute you see anything that looks like, sounds like, walks like, talks like, you like, later for you, bro, or whoever, brother, sister, whatever, it
Hmm.
are fireworks. And you find yourself, at least I know for me, in my house, I went to
Yeah.
work and I came home and I was fine. Me and my kittens. and, and that's all she wrote. And for years with me and my children, you know. And then it's like, wait, I got to get up out of this. And until you realize and say, I need to go to the altar, but I also need to go to therapy. I need to figure out and identify what all of those things are inside of me so I can pray about them,
Mhm.
so that I can get into the next relationship, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was so awesome. And you brought us right into the segue of just talking about how brokenness, first of all, something Latoya said. She
Mhm.
talked about her abuse or whatever, and it made her go in and search for love in different people
Mm-hmm.
because on the inside she was really, really broken.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about that, when we went searching for love for different people, Latoya, where did that end you?
So, I got married to someone. I'm not gonna say the name of the person, but all along I was going through, um, let's see, throughout my teen years because I got married at 21. So throughout my teenage years, I remember saying to the Lord, I want to get married. I don't want to fornicate, things like that. And so, I knew that getting married was the right thing, the God honoring thing to do. So I prayed about that. And then, so youth pastor came to our church at that time. And then basically, this is how we got connected. He was very friendly. We became friends. It started out as a friendship, and then about a couple of years later, we got married after I went off to college. So we got married into my second year of college. And at that time, being 21, I thought I knew what I was getting into. I thought I knew what to look for. I had a good understanding. And this is basically what I was saying. Like for me, from my experience, as long as you love the Lord and you put Him first, everything else will fall into place. No, And again, hindsight being 2020, I realized you gotta, look at the fruits, just different things along the way and really make sure that the Lord is the one that's leading you. But I would say that at that time, it was my desire to not be alone and lonely. It was, he did present as someone who really loved the Lord and was living for the Lord, but the character and just different things within the character just wasn't there. And aside from his issue, I still had my own issues and wounds, and so I really, it was a combination of two broken people with issues,
Oh,
Mm.
and we have 10 years difference between us. He's 10 years older than I was at the time, so actually 11 years, not 10, 11. So anyway, what basically about 10 years into the marriage, but there were red flags all along, honestly, there were. But I think in my heart and my mind, it was, we love each other, we love the Lord, we're going to work through it, we're going to overcome it. And so I kept pressing through the issues that were presenting. One of the major issues was we wouldn't agree. Like, how the word says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? There were a lot of things we just did not agree on. And I remember always deferring to him, maybe because he was older and maybe he seemed more mature in some things than he was, in the things of God. He had some more understanding than I did. And also because of what you're taught, the wife is to be submissive. Of course, when you don't understand what that really means at 21, you just think, you're supposed to just, go along with. So I was going along with, but again, when I look back on everything, I realized that the same pattern from the abuse that I suffered in my childhood was the same thing I carried into the relationship.
Mm.
So for me, I felt like I was a tag along with my ex. I felt like I was, just whatever decision he made, I was just like going along with it, and I was a tag along and all of that. And so what happened is another thing I had prayed before we got married. I remember praying and begging and asking the Lord. I didn't want somebody that drink and smoke because that was my dad, and I didn't want somebody to cheat. So those were the two things, the main things that I remember praying to the Lord about. And I thought this man that I got married to, never ever, no one could tell me at that time that that would have ever happened. But unfortunately, I was very wrong, and I was so wrong in such a way that really blew my mind and broke my heart, like on so many different levels. And so I'm really careful about what I'm saying right now because this is like actually my first time publicly saying all of this, and I don't know how much I want to say at this point. So please bear with me. But so for me, that's when my heart got broken even more. Going through the infidelity in the marriage, and then that process looked like going to group counseling, going to therapy, trying to work through it for another 5 years. But then it recurred and came back, and it came back even worse than it did before. So then we had to come to a point of, okay, this is what it is. It's not working, and at that point, I was afraid to live on my own. I was afraid to. It was again because I don't want to be alone.
Mhm.
And so I had to go through a process. It took 5 years to let that go. From the first of learning about it, actually seven, because it happened in the 12th year, and so we got divorced 2019. So anyway, yes, I got divorced, and that process is also another process in which I found myself going into other relationships and trying to still find that man that's going to fill this. I just want to be loved for me and accepted for me. I want someone who is true and honest because there was a lot of lies and deception. And that's another thing. I was dating patterns upon patterns of men who were always lying and cheating and just deceptive. So what I had to come to a place in my life now where I'm dealing with different things like generational curses, familiar spirits, and so many different. It goes so deep because it wasn't just the sinful choices I was making, it was what was patterned for me growing up, and it was also again when the door has been open because my mom was never married. You know, she has three different baby father. My mom never got married. My dad got married, then he got a divorce, and then he got married again. So you know, it's interesting. Like my pattern was I got married and then I got a divorce, and I am hoping to get married again, but I'm praying to God that it's to the right man, the man of God, and I've been going through a process with that. But anyway, so you
Let's
know,
hold it right there for a moment, Latoya. We want to. I just want to throw out another question. So hold that thought right there because you brought up a good point to me. Um,
mhm,
Patterns.
mhm,
So that is something that's important
yes,
because when we become hurt a lot of times, what we do is we don't we reflect on other people and we don't look at us.
right,
Sure.
So a lot of times when we're in various relationships, some of the ways that we act is where we are at that particular time. So we don't
mhm,
look from the long distance standpoint of anything. So EI, for one moment, let's just talk about patterns for a minute.
Mhm.
So, tell us something about relationship and first of all, how were you able to forgive? That's
Ooh,
heavy. Three people
let me
because
tell
of
you.
one person.
Let me tell you. Latoya hit it on the head when she said generational curses and familial spirits. That spoke to me so deeply. The forgiveness had to happen, and again, this is a product of therapy, of counseling, of grief counseling, of lifestyle, all of it. And for me, I went in the reverse direction. I was all into counseling and therapy and not church. hmm So
Mhm.
I was going to counseling and doing everything to fix my life, and still something was missing. And it wasn't until I started attending church regularly. I had to find where get in where you fit in. I had to find a place that I felt comfortable with, where I could receive the message. Because there's a saying, to make sure that you, and I think you said something earlier about this. Um, Make sure you're healed, so you don't hear through the wounds,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So in my case, because these were all three people, three people that I loved, all three of these people, love doesn't just go away.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of people thought, well, this man did this horrible thing. Don't you hate him? Well, I didn't hate him the day before. I hated what he
Right.
did.
Mhm.
I hated the pain that he put all those people through. And it took me a year to, and like I said in the beginning, I write my way through everything. Without this, listen, there would be no me. So it took me about a year to finally construct the right words to release this man from what he did. And it
Mhm.
wasn't for him, it was for me.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
I wouldn't walk around with that black shadow I was telling you about, that heavy implosion, right? Everything was just gone,
Mhm.
blank. And I didn't like the way that felt. So for my own survival, I had to forgive.
Mhm.
And it was, it sounds simple, but it's not. It took a year.
Yeah.
I cursed everyone. I cursed the skies, the ceiling, the grass, the blades of grass, everything. I was like, why me? You go through your self, self pity and everything.
Mm.
But I just knew that wasn't where God wanted me to be,
Mm.
stuck in grief, right? But I also know that grief is a process that you better go through.
Yes.
And there's a thing that I tell my grandchildren, 6 of them. And I tell them the story of the little, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. There was a butterfly in a cocoon,
Mm-hmm.
and the cocoon had fallen or whatever. And there were children that were watching this, you know, trying to, the butterfly trying to struggle out of the cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
So they went and got scissors and cut the cocoon so the butterfly could get out, and it died
Right.
like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the lesson there is that the butterfly, the caterpillar, in order to turn into a butterfly, has to go through the pain of breaking through that cocoon.
Yes.
And when you just thought you were helping by cutting the thing and making it easier, you killed the thing. And so I knew instinctively that I was going to have to bust out this cocoon because I was in one, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It was lights out. I don't talk to nobody. Doors shut, blinds, pulled.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to lunch? No. You want to go to dinner? No. Leave me alone. Leave me be. Let me,
Mm-hmm.
let me be in my cocoon. And as I started the struggle to get out of that and get one wing out
Mm-hmm.
and get the other wing out,
Mm-hmm.
flex some little things around, I started to understand that pain, there's a process, and there's even the pain that you go through in healing is so necessary for you to really get it. For me to even be able to sit here and talk to you guys about it. Now, is it going to help the next person that's going through it? No. They're going to go through it. But will they have it in their head? I know this isn't forever. Yaya said that it's not forever. So let me just go through what I need to go through, right? So that forgiveness was part of it. I went backwards. I was into therapy, and then I found God. Mm-hmm. And now God supersedes therapy, but they're still working in tandem, mm-hmm. right? But that forgiveness, honestly, is for you because, like I said in the beginning, I could easily, and there are some people, and this was a huge family, and there's ripple effects, and some people have not healed from that, and some people still want revenge, and some people still just, they haven't gone through the process of letting go, right? Because some people would rather be angry than sad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anger is comfortable. Yes. Sadness hurts. It hurts. So I had to go through every tear, every pain, every lick until, I said, I got to let this go. It's not going to change. Mm-hmm. So having hate is only weighing me down. I can't let go. And I started that process when I was in Philadelphia. And through all of that, even just getting to Philadelphia was part of the healing process. And through all of that, like you said, I'm talking to you guys from California. I was able to go through all of that healing, and I found a whole different life that I would have never had if I was still sitting in the corner, right? Still mad, still holding on to anger. I'd still be where I was the day they died. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was great. That was great. So we had a comment for you. Oh. He says, "You're talking good, friend." So I'm sure you know. I'm sure you know who that is. So
yes. That was my first therapist, by the way. Let me tell you something. That in all honesty, you sometimes need people that will look you in the face and tell you what you don't want to hear. And I was woe is me. And that individual, when I went to work, we wound up working together. And one day looked me in my face. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the grieving process. Oh, how long has it been? I was like, oh, it's been about 5 years. Girl, he gone. Like you have got to pick yourself up, and sometimes you need that. That doesn't work for everybody, but it definitely worked for me. That, hey girl, you're still here, aren't you? Right? And the living feel guilty. Survivor's remorse. Yes. I was 5 minutes from being at that house. I was on my way. Survivor's remorse is a real thing. Yeah. Latoya, I'm hearing that from you, right? You've got survivor's remorse. You've been through all of that, everything that you've been through, and you still, you know, you're still working through that. I just want to come through this computer and hug this woman so
Yes.
bad. and just listening to her testimony, that we have to, and this is going to sound terrible, you have to be able to be selfish.
Yes. Yes.
Take care of you, right? You have to be, because we, just like we were raised, go to church, not the other thing is keep my business in my house, right? And don't be selfish. You can't be selfish. Selfish is not bad. Selfish is survival. You have to take care of yourself first, or you will not be able to take care of anyone else. You have to give to yourself first, or you will not be able to give to anyone else. You got to get there first. And I'm listening to you, Latoya, when you were telling the story about the, look what you were looking for. You're looking for security, right? She's looking for security. I heard it all through your testimony. It's so beautiful. You gotta take care of you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you were fine. You were fine. You were fine. So that's fine. That's what we're all here for, to speak into each other. So
Yes.
you just really spoke something into her, because the greatest thing for us is self-care.
Yes.
Somebody else says being selfish will push to wholeness.
Wholeness. Yes, ma'am.
So thank you, Toya. So, that's awesome, because it does.
Yeah.
There is times before we can enter into any other type of relationship, no matter what type of relationship is. If
Yeah.
you don't identify with you, if you don't get to know you, if you don't know your negatives and your positives, your goods and your bads, your likes and your dislike,
Yeah.
what good are you for someone else? Because what happens is, when that someone else comes along, you just, as Toya said, as Latoya said, you just become part of them. You're
Yes.
not really seen. You're living in their shadows.
Yes.
And we're not in that day and time that we can do that anymore. We have to identify with who we are. We have to become healed as individuals. We can't always reach out to heal somebody else if we're not healed. It's kind of like the one of the objectives I've had for tonight, that we have to want healing for the wounds, because if we don't, we'll bleed on other people.
Girl.
And that's what's happening, because we're not healing. We're bleeding on other people.
Oof.
And that's why other people are sick
Ooh, that's a
and
word.
damaged, just as we are.
That is such a word.
Because there's transferring of spirits. Because when we are broken, we're miserable, we're negative, we're dark, we're angry. You have to first find who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to stop saying it's somebody else. Because in every relationship, it takes two to tangle. So there's a part of the other person, and there's a part of you. If you can only see the other person, you have not identified with you.
And
Yes.
been abused, if you don't deal with the abuse piece, it leads to so much, especially sexual abuse and physical abuse. It leads to promiscuity, and we don't even realize it. And so all we're doing after that, we got to have this individual, we got to have this man, because we got to have a security blanket. We got to have, everything that a man represents to us. But we can't even present ourselves fully, because we haven't identified ourselves yet, because we have all these years of abuse that have happened that we haven't cleared. So until clear that away and make the path so that we are, as one of my sisters put it, findable.
Findable. I like that.
We can't, we're not findable, so we got to clear it away. And I think as we go through conversations like these, we help each other to unload and pull back the layers, so we can see who we really are.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, we're running out of time, but I want to do a part 2 with all of you ladies, because I want to travel down the forgiveness road. You did an awesome job with the brokenness. You gave them enough to think about. of being broken. You told her, but now I want to travel down. So I'm going to invite you ladies back and within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, Toya, the joke about the findable comes from my son because
I like
I'm going to
that.
digress for one moment. So in church, we always saying, he that findeth a good thing, and the man findeth good thing. He finds favor with God. But then it goes on. My son said, I was repeating, we were actually joking and talking one day. And he says, the problem is, are you findable? Because men are going out to find. But if you're always in your home, if you always just go from work to home to church, where do you become? When
Take a
do
pass.
you become findable?
And
Did you place yourself in the pathway so that
wow.
somebody can find you?
Yeah.
Or are you just so stuck in your way to say, yes, scripture does say that? We most definitely true, but sometimes we quote things without understanding.
Mhm.
So, are you at the place? Are you at the place that you're healed to be foundable? That's the key word. So we are going to do.
I'm healed and still hiding. I ain't
So
ready.
yeah, Toya Marcia said again, we have to get out of our routines.
Yeah.
Yes, routines will kill you, and it will make you not findable.
Yes.
So so that's good. So I have to do a part two. I have to do a part two. I have so many comments that are coming in that was like, oh no, we got to do this again. So I have to do a part two. So I am going to be reaching out to you ladies within the next couple of weeks. I might have to push back my other ladies because they were going to be talking about an angry heart. So,
Ooh.
but or I might do it after because angry and broken kind of fills up because we can't get to resuscitation
Ooh. Ah,
until
ooh.
we get
Lord.
forgive.
But
We
and
can't then.
that's too is that when you have this brokenness, there are so many other emotions that come into your heart that if you're not careful, um, I know Latoya was there. It spills out, and I had a picture of just stuff spilling out, and I was saying, "Oh, I got the love of God in my heart. I got the love." No, I didn't, because I had all this other stuff. So
Ooh.
love is scraping the bottom, and all the thing that was pushing out was all these other emotions. So you got to be,
Yes.
because it's kind of like a canker sore. Every time it touches something, bleeds the pus out, and it touches a new spot. Now you got a new thing going on, and
Yeah.
you can't get to the clean part until you
Yes.
get rid of all that stuff. We gotta get it out. So it leads to all of those other pieces, and then we can talk about resuscitating. So we
Mm.
got
Hmm.
some more parts we gotta get to, honey. Let's peel back the onion. Let's peel because
Yes.
we can't put the paddles on it till we can get to it. You know?
Right. So I'm probably going to push resuscitation back a week
Yeah.
and then deal with the anger and then we're going to come back and we're going to do part 2 of the forgiveness cuz this when I say this was mighty on tonight,
Mm.
you are being yourself. You're putting out there and like I said initially, we're saying some things that people want to say, but
Mm,
they
Yeah.
can't say.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but when they can identify with what you're saying, you would be surprised of the comfort. One thing that we do, we often say that we love everybody, but love is
Mm.
an action word.
Mm,
And if you're angry, if you're negative, if you always are criticizing other people, you want to check your love bank
mm,
because there's some deficiency and
mm.
there's some negative fees that are in your love bank.
Yes.
And we have to be careful because we say that a lot as being Christians, but you want to examine what you say before you speak. It goes back to speaking your words that will create your atmosphere. If
You're
you
right.
cannot look at someone in the face or if they mention their name and emotions start eroding inside of you, got some negative things there. Check your love bank because
Mm.
you done cashed in some checks that you didn't have enough money. Insufficient funds is what you had. So you want to check those things out
Yeah.
because that means that there's something that's still on the inside. You got some brokenness, some hurt, some something. But one thing, and I'm going to close with this thing. One thing that Eia you said forgiveness releases us.
Mhm.
It has nothing to do with the other person.
No.
Latoya, you were saying it all in what you were saying. Iya, you were saying all in what you saying. It's not until we get to that point that growth comes.
Mhm.
Because as long as we harbor unforgiveness on the inside of us, we're not growing.
Mhm.
We are
Yeah.
stuck, standing still in
Mhm.
quicksand.
Mm. Yes.
Hmm.
Ooh, that's a word.
It's
Mm.
not until we get to the point until we're able to release. That's why I need you ladies to come back because you got to talk
Listen, I'm
about the
like this
releasement
right
of it.
now. Like
You got to talk about the
both of
releasement of it.
y'all have
Because
fed
there's
me
a
so well.
release that had to come in for both of you in order for you to be at the place you are.
Yeah.
After all you've been through, when
Hmm.
you can look and say, I still got joy, I
Yeah.
still got peace, I'm
Yeah.
still able to love after all I've been through, you're here for a purpose.
You're still
Somebody said forgiveness is for us. The other person is already free.
Oh,
Yvonne
ain't that
said that.
something?
So that is so awesome because the
Yeah.
other person has gone on to live their life
Mhm.
Mhm.
and we're still stuck. I want to thank you, ladies. You touched me. You have left me in awe. So on tonight, so Donna, you have anything else you want to say?
No, we all, and we're gonna come back for part two.
Oh, yeah, we need these two for part two. So I'm going to be
Latoya,
reaching
thank you
out to
so
you.
much. I want to because you touched me tonight, ma'am. I just want to say I just heard so much in your testimony and everything. Ooh, I'm sending virtual hugs your way, sis. There you go.
Receive and I
I love you, ladies. To life. It was been great, and I'll see you on the next round. Be looking out to hear from me.
Thank
Bye
you so much.
bye.
All right. Bye bye.